Our Second Amendment, written in 1791 by our forefathers, gave us the right to bear arms. Some may question the validity of the rights given by our founding fathers. This topic has been addressed at the state Supreme Court level on several different occasions and has yet been upheld. While some Americans have tried to alter what they believe the Second Amendment says, the rights given to us by our founding fathers have been upheld time after time. Many people over the years have tried to pick apart the amendment by addressing its validity and misconstruing what the comma in the sentence actually means. Did they mean everyone should have the right to bear arms? Did they mean that each state has its right to form its own militia? Would restricting gun purchases lead to less deaths, or would people still find a way to make and distribute firearms? Did they only mean the right to bear arms only applies to muskets, or more simply, did they mean exactly what they wrote, shall not be infringed? After having conducted extensive research on the Second Amendment, I am going to discuss with you the different aspects of our Second Amendment right and the possible effects of courts making changes in how we shall keep and bear arms. I will do this by informing you of what our Second Amendment means and allows, what law-abiding citizens utilize firearms for, what happens when weapons get into the hands of the wrong people, and how it could possibly be altered to fit our modern-day society to ensuring that everyone is happy and safe. Should our Second Amendment stay unchanged because it was given to us by our founding fathers, just like the amendments that allow us to have freedom of speech and freedom of press? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The words shall not be infringed are very, very powerful words in our Constitution. While the citizens of our country have been preoccupied by protesting our Second Amendment, protests protected under our First Amendment that have turned violent have proven in the past to be deadly. New York Magazine published an article in August of 2017 about the fatalities and injuries that occurred during a protest in Charlottesville, Virginia. Is that what the founding fathers meant when they gave us the freedom of speech? Did they think that extremist groups would be rioting in the streets causing people to die and be harmed? 3 people died that day and more than a dozen were injured. Changing our God-given rights should not be an option, especially when you single out one amendment for change and not others. The Constitution also states that our liberty as American citizens, that we are allowed to bear arms. Moralnomics, the moral path to prosperity, gives an example about what is necessary to have the right to a firearm. He uses a person standing in a jungle as an example and states that a person standing alone cannot hope to resist the forces of evil for long, that it's necessary to protect the individual liberty from such a threat, and by doing so we act together. Winship also states that it was a good idea back then and it is a good idea now to have the capacity to form militias in the state should the need arise. It seems hard to not agree with the statement given the time that we are living in and people are uprising over everything and anything. According to a study published by Paul Heisch in 2018 called Any Study of Gun Violence Should Include How Firearms Save Lives, said it is estimated that over 1 million defensive gun uses per year are for self-protection, protection of property at home, work, or elsewhere. The study also yielded that 162,000 cases where someone certainly would have almost been killed had a gun not been used for protection. Protecting your family in your home is a huge concern. Although accidents in the home do occur when people are irresponsible with a firearm, the pros undoubtedly outweigh the cons. Priorities for research to reduce the threat of firearm-related violence, which was investigated and researched and written by the Institute of Medicine and the National Research Council, reported that it is somewhere between 500,000 to 3 million Americans use a firearm in self-defense. If more emphasis was put on the good instead of just the bad, maybe the public would feel better about our Second Amendment being in place and for our continued protection, the same reason it was derived. Many people are quick to jump to conclusions that every gun owner is going to do something wrong with it, and that in fact is not true. A study published by the National Review by epidemiologist Anthony Fabio of Pittsburgh's Graduate School of Public Health and researchers partnered with Pittsburgh's Bureau of Police. It traced origins of all 893 firearms recovered in 2008. They discovered that approximately 8 out of 10 perpetrators were unlawful and in illegal possession of a weapon. Many citizens use firearms in a law-abiding way and some do not. In a way to ensure that firearms are being sold to firearms are being sold to law-abiding citizens should take into consideration our mental health. It is a huge topic of discussion when it comes to our Second Amendment. Unfortunately, our Second Amendment didn't discriminate when it was written. When purchasing a gun, there is no mental health background check. And why is that? In an article by David Shortell, he notes House Speaker Paul Ryan said in a news conference, "We have a system to prevent people who aren't supposed to get a firearm from getting firearms, and if there are gaps, then we need to look at those gaps." One way to fail a background check and to end up in the database is if a court or government body were to rule that a person's mental health or they are in danger of themselves or someone else. David Shortell also explains that because federal law doesn't require states to make mental health records part of the background check that is required to purchase a firearm, the background check fails. Grant Dewey and Michael Rock, in an article for the LA Times, go on to explain that their research of at least 59% of the 185 public mass shootings that took place in the United States from 1900 to 2017 were carried out by people who had a mental disorder or demonstrated serious mental illness. Another point I'd like to address is the age limit. Why is the age limit 18 for a rifle and 21 for a handgun? At 18, you can purchase a gun, but you cannot purchase alcohol. And why is that? A licensed dealer can sell a handgun to anyone under, an unlicensed dealer can sell a handgun to anyone under the age of 21. The policy known as the Gun Control Act of 1968 states that the age for license purchase on the other side, you can still get it from an unlicensed purchase or neighbor. Since the shooting at Stoneman Douglas, retailers like Dick's Sporting Goods have raised the age limit to 21. Some states are getting on board with the proposal to raise the age limit. However, they are the states with the highest gun violence. The Constitution of the United States is the backbone of our country. We have been living by this for centuries, and shall not be infringed means just that. We don't get to decide what we can and cannot change when it favors us. It's not fair to change our Second Amendment because people want to see the bad coming from gun ownership and not the good. In 1791, it was a much different time than we are living in today. The great debate over our Second Amendment will never go away, but altering the laws surrounding the amendment could prove to make society a safer place. Firearms will never go away either, and the liberty to own one shouldn't go away, but we should be able to adapt to our 21st century. We need to make sure that we keep ourselves safe, our children at home and at school safe, and not infringe on our civil liberties all at the same time. It's going to take time, money, patience to sort out the rights and the wrongs. Our opinions and our religious and political views will all play a part. For now, all we can do is make sure that gun ownership is staying grounded for what our forefathers had intended its purpose, to protect and defend itself and form militias should the need arise, and to do so, they shall not be infringed.